Once, many years ago, in the lands of Nippon, called Japan, there lived a governor, a man renowned for both his wisdom and his discretion. He liked to throw, as all important men do, great parties. And great parties, of course, demand great plates. And he had 12 of the greatest plates that had ever been made. Each one was made by a different master potter, each one painted by a different master painter. They were beautiful. So worthwhile were these plates that he employed one servant whose only job was to carry these plates. Before dinner, she would open up the cupboards and take them out carefully, set them at each plate place, and wait. After the dinner, she alone would pick them up, take them back, and wash them each by hand. And then she would open up the cabinet, and as she put them away, she would count each. Mi, san, chi, go, ru, sich, hach, ku, ju, juich, and close the cabinet. But the governor was, as I said, capricious. And one day he decided to test his servant. So he threw a great party and invited great guests that demanded the great plates. And after she had set them out, he took one away and hid it in his room where she would not look. And dinner went on, and the servant took the plates at the end of it and stacked them to take them and wash them by hand with care. And she opened it up and she counted again. To each little plate. Panic filled her heart. These plates were literally more valuable than she was. These plates were her life. She searched the house high and low, looking everywhere they possibly could be. She couldn't find them. It was gone. She had lost the plate. And in her grief at failing this great duty, she ran into the courtyard, threw herself into the well, and died. The governor was shocked. He had never meant to cause the death of what was clearly his most loyal servant. So he paid a high price to her family so that they would not feel want in her honor, and he tried to repay the debt of honor that he had created. He thought that it would settle and time would go on and he would learn. But the very next night, as he lay awake in his bed, he started to hear scratching. Faint at first, but growing ever louder, scratching. He said, "Oh, it's the wind against the walls." But finally he could stand it no more, and he walked forward and flung open his shutters, just in time to see two hands coming out over the edge of the well, and the drowned servant pulling herself out. He watched in horror as she shuffled to the center of the courtyard and opened up cupboards that only she could see. Began to put away ghostly plates, count. But where before her voice had been sweet, now it was terrible. Me, san, chi, go, rook, sich, hash, ku, ju, juich, and she turned to look for the plate that wasn't there and screamed. A scream so loud no one in the castle slept again that night. This continued the second night, the third night, until finally on the fourth night, the governor was set to host his friend, Abe no Sen, a renowned scholar and practitioner of the Japanese mystic arts. He knew his friend would know what happened immediately, and so he contrived to hide it. He met Abe no Seimei at the gate and said, "Oh, please, my friend, go in aside. I am so sorry. We have termites. We have set up a pavilion 1.5 miles away so that we may dine in leisure." Abe no Seimei, very wise, said nothing. And they went out to the tent. And they enjoyed the feast and they drank sake. And the governor began to think that things would be all right, at least for him. And that maybe he could just move them. But then in his mind's eye, as the clock struck the hour of the rat, as we call midnight, he could see it. The scratching. The hands. The drowned servant. And in his mind, he counted along with her. Each time hoping that at 12 it would not be there. But as he counted the last plate, as she did as well, squeeze! A scream ripped through the tent that rattled it to its core, and no one in the county slept that night. Finally, he could not hide it anymore, and in his shame he confessed it. And Abe no Seimei pondered and said, "I believe I know what we must do, my friend. Come, stay here. I will go back to your manor and deal with this." The governor shook his head and said, "No, I cannot let you go back there alone. We will go together." So they went through and they pretended to get the business of the state done that day until it came to be nighttime once more. Once more the governor was in his bed when he heard the scratching. And once more he went forward to open the shutters just in time to see the 2 hands of the servant pull herself out. And he watched and did not see Abe no Seimei. The servant shuffled out to the center, opened up the ghostly cover. Knee, sigh, G. Go, of course, more terrible with every count. Roop, cease, harsh the scream, beginning to boil in her throat. True, Jew, Jewish, and just as she turned for the missing plate, Seimei jumped out of the corner and yelled, "Junie!" And the servant picked up the final plate, counted in her normal voice, "Junie." Closed, covered, bowed, and the governor was stunned. Abe no Seimei turned to look at him through his windows and said, "A duty must be completed, even if it is after